coffee this morning. This is Lavazza Piena Aroma, which is like number 10 in intensity. It's a very strong coffee. I watered it down a little bit this morning. Anyway, good morning. It's Wednesday, January the 20th today, and a good day. Very early in the morning. Had just a nice straight sleep, but only about 6-7 hours. Worked late last night on uploading my YouTube videos. So good morning. Another day. We've got some good metrics this morning. Interesting metrics today. Interesting. Something happened. And we're going to find out what. We're going to try to figure this out. We're going to be detectives today. We're going to try to figure out what's going on. So my goal is start from 194, get down to 164. 30 pounds in a 60-day period, trying to lose that. And what happened? Well, turns out we've got an up result today, 178.2, and that is almost a pound more than yesterday. Almost a pound more than yesterday. So this is the second time in my history that this has happened. On January the 8th, I had an up day. It was the first up day. Today's the second up day. All the other days have been down, but today's the second up day, and it's up quite a bit, almost a pound. Yesterday, I weighed in at 177.3. So today, I'm 178.2, so that's a 0.9 pound increase. So this has changed these metrics right over here. I've lost 15.8 pounds in 19 days, and I've got 14.2 pounds in 41 days. And my average has changed, my 5-day, which is a very rapid average. That's changed. That's gone down to half a pound a day instead of 0.76. It was trending up, but now it's down because of this very odd result. So we're going to talk about this result today. But still, I'm going to kind of keep these here for now. And I'm going to wait until we get back over here because I don't know what this means. I don't know what aberration. I don't know how it was caused. I don't know what the factors are that could have caused it. I was true to my plan yesterday, but had a new food yesterday. And so maybe there's something in there that's going to tell us what happened, right? So my other numbers, woke up with my pre-breakfast blood glucose level was 88, very good. And my pre-breakfast ketones, 1.5, very, very good, very solid, 1.5, highest morning or pre-breakfast ketone level I've had so far. It's been trending up. It was 1.3, 1.2, and today it's 1.5. So in moderate ketosis, blood sugar's low, so I'm not, don't have any evidence that I had a tremendous amount of carbohydrates yesterday. So that'll be, so that part's interesting. That really these numbers are very consistent, except for this one over here, right? So, this speaks to, it's why I chose 60 days to lose 30 pounds and not 30 days to lose 30 pounds, because that would have demanded, I would have had to experiment with that before I try to apply it practically. And right now, we're in an experiment. I'm experimenting with how I can lose weight in a very consistent fashion, and I'm learning some lessons from that. So this is good. This is good data. We learn a lot from things that go wrong, and we really learn a lot from our mistakes, right? This is an opportunity to learn something. I'm not going to let my emotions get frazzled by something like this. I'm not going to attach a negative meaning to this. I'm going to attach a positive meaning to this. I'm learning something. So this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to focus in on this thing. I'm going to attach a positive meaning because I'm going to find the lesson in here, and that positive meaning is going to drive my emotions. And my emotions are going to drive my behavior, and then my behavior is going to lead to some thoughts and then some willful actions, right? So we're going to have a very positive cycle around this thing. I'm going to focus on the right things. I'm not going to sit there and say, oh my God, I'm up a pound, I can't believe it. I'm not going to do that. That doesn't make any sense. I used to do that kind of stuff, 20 years ago, right? I used to behave like that, but I've gotten a little bit older, a little bit wiser, and I look at things like this and I say, you know what? Opportunity to learn here, right? I'm excited because I'm going to learn something about why. We're going to ask some questions. I'm going to try to reach out to people and find out. Maybe you know the answer to this and you can put it down in the comments to try to figure this out for me and help me understand what I did wrong, because I did something wrong. Or this is random and my body's just reacting to maybe too much sodium in the food we had yesterday. Maybe I'm retaining water. Maybe I haven't been to the restroom regularly. I haven't had the kind of bowel movements that I need to have. Oh, who knows, right? So we're going to figure this out. So the thing that I did yesterday was we had a new recipe. We had a Lagostina lobster casserole that my wife occasionally makes. It's a very simple dish. Very simple dish, right? So you go to Costco, you buy that bag of Lagostina lobster tails. Right? It says right on the bag. It says 60 calories for 85 grams. It's the lowest calorie count of any sort of meat protein I've ever seen. It's really low. It's like half the calories of other meats, right? So it said it right on the bag. I trust Costco. I trust Kirkland brand to not deceive me or make mistakes. So I looked at that bag. I took a photograph of it. I've got it on my camera. And I went back to my little spreadsheet and I worked out a brand new table. And so then we started accounting for all the ingredients that are in the food. So those lobster tails goes into the pot, right? There was some parsley, 50 milligrams or 50 grams of parsley. There was some garlic, only a couple cloves, maybe about 10 or 15 grams. There was some ginger, again, very small amount, 10 or 15 grams. There were 2 large tomatoes, about 400 grams of tomatoes. Lots of carbohydrates in tomatoes. Got to watch that one. And then there was water and fish sauce, right? 1 tablespoon, 15 calories. No carbohydrates. Protein, calories, fish sauce. That's a very Asian dish, this style of cooking. So my wife put all this together. I added up all those calories and then I weighed the final product, right? I tared a bowl and then took all of the final product and put it in a bowl, because the starting weight and the ending weights are always different. Because the starting weight is all the ingredients together. The ending weight is the reduced, steam was allowed to be released. So a lot of water came out of that dish. So now you've got a denser package, right? So I took the total amount of the calorie inputs and then I weighed the final product and then I divided the number of calories by the weight of that final product to give me how many calories per gram. So came out to a very nice number, right? It was like 70 calories for 100 grams of this stuff. So if I need to have 300 calories for my protein dish, right, and this is 70 calories per 100 grams, right, I can have 430 grams of this dish, right? Because 70 times 4 is 280 grams or 280 calories. So I'm sitting there and I'm like, 400 grams, that's like a pound. That's a lot. So I went ahead and prepared that dish. Yeah, I did the math. Says there, the math, it doesn't lie, right? So I went ahead and had 400 grams of this dish. And I had my 130, 140 grams, or 147 grams of broccoli. And I had my kimchi, right? So I had a little bit of kimchi at dinner time, because now what I'm doing is I've eliminated rice and I'm putting kimchi into my diet. Kimchi is mainly all cabbage. It's got, the way my wife makes it is a little bit of cabbage, some carrots. So we've got to account for the carrots. I made the calorie count higher on this kimchi, but it's very low in calories, kimchi, and it's very good for you, right? It really helps you with the sort of the flora of bacteria that's in your gut. Nutritionists say that you really do need to eat a little bit of fermented food to maintain very sort of a great gut biome, right? You really need to have that. So I like my kimchi, and it's better than rice, right? It's the same carb count, I think, but it includes a little bit more protein than normal. So anyway, I had that big dish yesterday. It's hard to finish. It was a lot, right? It's a pound of Lagostina shrimp tails. So I didn't even want to eat it. I was halfway through that and I was like, I can't eat anymore. This is too much. But I ate it because I want to stick to my plan. And I didn't think I was cheating. I thought my math was correct. I thought everything was good. So anyway, just by the end of the night, I was just like, I'm not, you can't eat a pound. I told my wife that I ate a pound of it because she was taking a class during our dinner. So I fed the kids and I was eating this stuff and I told her, I said, I could eat 400 grams of this. And she goes, no way. There's no way you could eat 400 grams of that. I said, well, look at the math, right? The math works out. And, we're still kind of scratching our heads. But then by the end of the evening, I started looking on the internet, started going through the internet. And I said, let's look up Lagostina lobster tails. Let's see if this is accurate. Maybe Kirkland's not accurate. So as it turns out, I found another FDA tag on the internet for Kirkland Lagostina lobster tails, and it says 50 calories per 85 grams. 50 calories. It said 60 on the bag. So 50. So it was lower, which means I could have had more. So, okay. And then I found another site that said, no, it's 97 calories for 100 grams. Now that's very different than 50 calories. So on the internet for Lagostina lobster tails, there is a huge variance. Huge variance. Like there's 100% difference. Well, is it 50% or is it 100%? Depends which way you look at it, right? If you start from 50 calories and you go to 100 or 97 calories, that's like close to 100% difference. But if you start at 97 calories and go down to 50, that's like a 50% difference. Anyway, there's a big difference. That's a huge difference. That's the difference between having 400 grams of a dish and 200 grams of a dish. That's a big difference, right? I don't know. So I don't know what the number is. I don't know what the calorie count is, right? So I followed my plan. I said I was going to incorporate the dishes that we have. I was going to figure out my calories as we went along. But it turns out that they may be lying on the package. So I don't know about that. I mean, I don't think they're lying purposefully, right? Just like I don't think I'm not following my plan. But there's a bit of a variance on the internet. So I've got to do more research specifically about Lagostina. It's maybe a novel. Maybe it's too novel for me to be trying a dish like that. Maybe I should stick to more simple dishes. So that's something that happened yesterday. Was there a lot of sodium in it? I looked at the bag again. There really wasn't that much sodium, but I did have 5 servings. So 5 servings, which is a serving is 85 grams. I did have 5 servings according to the back of the bag. So maybe I did have a lot of sodium, because combining that sodium with the sodium that I've had in all of the other foods, along with 2 liters of my Brain Forza keto mix or whatever it is, the minerals, maybe I had a lot of sodium yesterday, right? So maybe I'm just retaining water, and that's possible. It's possible that given the number of servings that I had from the bag, that I've way exceeded my sodium and I'm kind of bloated today, right? Maybe this is water retention. We're going to find out. We're going to find out tomorrow or the next day how much this drops, right? So we're going to find out. It's a mystery, and we need to solve it and try to figure it out, because I don't think that I exceeded my calorie count yesterday. My calorie target yesterday was 1150, and I don't think that I exceeded that at all. And if I did exceed it, I exceeded it by 100 calories maybe. I didn't have any coffees. I didn't have any nibbles. I didn't have any almonds. I followed my plan yesterday, right? I believed that I was following my plan yesterday. So it's possible that my inputs were incorrect. My data inputs were incorrect. It's possible that my sodium levels are very, very high. It's possible that I'm diversifying a little too fast. We'll talk about that later, right? I swapped out rice for 2 servings of kimchi throughout the day. So morning, midday, and evening, right? My lunch and evening. I used to only have rice in the afternoon lunch, and nothing in the evening. Now I've kind of moved those carbs to the evening a little bit, so that's a bit of a diversification, isn't it? Right? I'm changing the way I'm doing things. Right? I'm experimenting. This is what I'm trying to do. I'm trying to find that right combination for myself, but still achieve the 30 pounds. So it's kind of interesting. We'll talk about this in my lessons learned as they come up. But first, what I wanted to do was go through my spreadsheet update to show you how you can account for the calories in a meal, right? You need to, when you're preparing a meal that you normally prepare, you need to gather up all of your ingredients, right? You need to gather up your ingredients and you need to weigh them, your inputs, and then you need to go to the internet and, hopefully it's reliable, but you got to go to the internet and you've got to find the data on the internet that says how many calories per gram or milliliter of this ingredient, and you've got to write that down in a spreadsheet, okay? And so you only need to do this once. If you're consistent in how you do a meal prep, if you're prepping a meal and you're fairly consistent, at the end of the game, that final casserole or souffle or stew or whatever it is that you're doing, it's going to have roughly X number of calories per gram or milliliter. You can do it per gram. It doesn't really matter. I think you can do everything per gram. But it's going to have the same rough from meal to meal, right? From preparation to preparation, from 1 week to the next. It's going to have roughly the same number of calories per gram if you're consistent about your meal prep. If you're inconsistent about your meal prep, then you're going to have to weigh it every time you prep that meal. But we're pretty consistent about our meal preps around here. We tend to follow recipes. So let me show you how this works, right? Let's flip over to a spreadsheet and I'll show you how that works. Okay, so this is the kind of sheet that I'm using to make some complex meals and to figure out what the calorie count is in each one of these complex meals. I mean, we make these things at home, and I know my wife makes very complex dishes, and now we have a way of figuring out how many calories, roughly, how many calories there are in those dishes. So I've got 3 examples here because I think these 3 examples are kind of very useful. Number 1, it's a latte, right? So you make these little drinks, and so this is something that we consume calories in is a latte or a soda or a soda drink or maybe even an alcohol drink if you drink alcohol. So I use whole milk, chocolate milk. These are my calories and carb grams and proteins per milliliter. This is what this is. I break everything down per milliliter. And then I figure out what my milliliter serving is. So I usually use somewhere around a cup, but it's 240 milliliters. And then I get my totals, right? So I know that for a cup of milk, it's 150 calories, 12 grams of carbs, and 7.2 grams of proteins. And then similar numbers for the chocolate milk. Add them both up, get a total over here. And then, and here's the trick, I got to figure out what is my final product. How many milliliters is my final product? Because I'm adding a double, triple, quadruple shot of espresso in here. So I'm adding milliliters of water and caffeine and coffee mix. My final product is 700 milliliters. And then what I do is I divide 349, which is the total number of calories, by 700. So now I know that per milliliter of this stuff, I get 0.0499 calories, and I get 0.053 grams of carbs and 0.021 grams of protein. Now, why is this important? Because I come back to my diet plan and I say, I want to have a mocha today, and I don't want to have more than 150 calories of that mocha. So I make my mocha, and I know that I can only have 300 milliliters of that mocha. I can have half. If I want a mocha, I can have it, right? As long as it doesn't affect my carbs too much, which it obviously does. I'd have to cut somewhere else to keep these carbs down. But, I can have it as long as I make adjustments elsewhere. And as long as I keep the number. And I know exactly how big my mocha is. So, yeah, I'm throwing out half. There's no doubt about it. I'm throwing out half. But so what? Who cares? I'll just make my regular mocha and throw out half, and I'll have that. So let's take a look at another complex dish. Last night, my wife made this amazing lobster tail stew. So what I did is we went and figured out all the ingredients that were in that lobster tail stew. and it's lobster tails, parsley, actual fresh tomatoes, some fish sauce, ginger, and garlic. So I went through and we figured out, we weighed everything. We weighed how much each one of these was. This is in tablespoons, by the way. I should actually write that down, but that was a tablespoon. Just went ahead. Again, calories per gram or milliliter or serving, calories per carbs per gram, proteins per gram, and then the serving size, right? And then total calories for that entire meal, that entire pot of stew. And then I've got my total carbs, my total protein for that entire pot of stew. And then what we did is we weighed the final product, because if you add all this up, you will notice right here, if I added this up right here, and I know I've got a teaspoon in there, but 1,455? How's that? If it weighs 1,455, how is it possible that it's down to here? Well, the reason is that it burns off steam, right? When you're cooking something, it's steaming off, it's reducing. And that's part of the pleasure of all this. It's reducing itself. So I weighed the final product that she produced, and it was 1,086 grams. So then I just divided 1,040 calories by 1,086 grams, and I came pretty close to 1 calorie per gram, and this many carbs per gram, and this many proteins per gram. And how do I use that? I just go back into my little drop-down list, and I grab my lobster tail stew. And I know that if I want 300 calories of it, I can only have 313 grams. And it tells me my carbs and proteins. Now, where does it get this? It gets it really just clearly from that original sheet that you saw probably in the first video. I just included lobster tail stew in my lookup table, right? So I took down my stats right here. So 0.96, 18, and 04. 0.96, 18, and 04 are right here. I just copied those directly, right? I just go directly to that little spot and I grab that data, right? And that's how I do it. I can make another complex dish. My favorite dish. This is the one I make because I actually learned it from a proper Italian chef. And so I make a proper Italian bolognese. And these are the ingredients. I'm not going to give you my secrets though, but these are the ingredients. And these are the calories per serving, like whether it's a gram or, sorry, not by serving, but it's calories per gram or milliliter, okay? Carbs per gram or milliliter, protein per gram or milliliter, and then the serving, right? So then I get my total calories. So I make a large container of this, large, 8-quart pot. I make an 8-quart pot of this thing, and end up having 3,221 calories, 81 grams of carbs, 210 grams of protein. That's pretty good. But then, right? No, sorry. I weigh it down, and it ends up making, the ingredient weight comes down to 2,227 grams. But after I'm done reducing it, it's only 1,800 grams. So then what I do is I just divide 3,221 by 1,800, and I get this number right here, right? That's all I do. I just do 3,200 divided by 1,800. I do 81 divided by 1,800, 210 divided by 1,800. And then I get my calories and my carbs and my proteins per gram of the final product. So then I know if I dip in a spoon or a ladle in there and I put that on my plate and I weigh it, obviously, I know exactly how many calories are going to be in there, give or take, 1 or 2 calories. But I know pretty close. And what I do is I just map that data into my little lookup table. And then over here, I go, I'm having some bolognese sauce tonight, of course, with no pasta, but I'm having bolognese sauce tonight. And if I want 300 calories of bolognese, I'm allowed 207 grams of bolognese sauce, which is much better than a ribeye steak, but it's, pretty close to chicken breast. I think I'd rather have chicken breast, but my bolognese tastes really good. I've got to admit. And then you got to have it on something, right? So probably just have it on salad, right? Or you could have it on rice, or you could have it on some form of low calorie pasta. I don't know what's out there. I haven't looked, and I'm not going to make a big deal out of it. But this is how you do it. You just have to Spend the time. Took me about 25, 30 minutes to put this table together, and another 25, 30 minutes to put this table together. And I did find that the USDA publishes for everybody to have a comma separated spreadsheet, a CSV download Excel file of all of this data for every item that's sold in a store. For every food item, it's got the calorie and carb count and protein count and fat count and all that. It's all up there on the USDA website. So at some point, I might link this spreadsheet to that so that I don't have to make these complex lookups on the internet and manually do the research. I'm just going to type something in and it'll just pull it up. Anyway, this is how you do it. So you don't have to just eat like broiled chicken breast and steamed broccoli. You can make complex dishes and know exactly how much of it you have. And I've got to tell you, this is relieving because, I don't know how long I can just eat chicken and broccoli, right? I'm eating other things, but, mainly I'm eating chicken and broccoli because it's easy. But I want to make these dishes again, right? I want to make bolognese sauce. And for the first time, I know exactly how much of it I can have. And I know that I was overeating before. So, hopefully you can use this kind of method to figure out the kinds of calories that you have in your dish. Just weigh everything, look everything up. You just got to do this once. And as long as you're consistent with your recipe and the way that you cook your recipes, you'll know from now on that when you have that dish, you can just plug that in and enjoy that dish. Enjoy the flavor of that dish for this many grams. So hopefully that spreadsheet is going to give you some insight as to how you don't have to just stick to chicken, right? Chicken and broccoli. You can bring in other meals, right? You can move around a little bit, but you have to know what your inputs are, right? So what is the calorie count for Lagostina lobster? I don't know. I mean, with a variance of 50 or 100%, a variance of 50 calories for 85 grams, or 83 calories for 85 grams, then that makes such a big difference that I need to either take the very conservative number, which is what I am now doing, which is what it was in the spreadsheet. I'm taking a very conservative view of those of that Lagostina calorie content, which is going to really reduce the amount that I'm eating. Right. So, I mean, I think you have to do that. I think you just have to be very careful about researching your data, making sure that not to rely on a brand claim and rely more on USDA facts. I did find that USDA spreadsheet, so I'm going to be using that. I'm really excited about that. So, last week I told you that I sat down on a Sunday and I just reflected on how this whole process has gone, and I thought about let's do a little hot wash on this thing, right? So. On Monday, we had observations, and today I want to do lessons learned, and Friday, I'm going to do best practices. We're going to try to look at best practices and understand what those best practices could be. So lessons learned, I've got them all written down here, and hopefully they'll pop up on the screen as I'm reading these to you. Lessons learned. So, emotions are key. I think in attempting anything, emotions are key. My emotions improve with positive progress. And at times I find that my emotions get worse with negative process, right? When my metrics reverse. So believe me, I mean, this bothers me a little bit, right? I mean, I should be happy, right? 178, I was 194 19 days ago. I should be ecstatic. And I am. I'm very, very happy, but I'm a sleuth. I'm a little bit of a detective on this thing. And I want to know why, right? So this is like I've shifted from being sort of like, yeah, go, to let's pause, right? That's a big behavioral shift all of a sudden. Let's pause. So anyway, what I do know is that I need data. One thing about my emotions are data driven, right? And I need to surround myself with a lot of data so that I can focus on the data and attach meaning to the data around me. If I only have one data point, if I only had one data point every day to look at, I could spin off into a bad direction. But I've got lots of data points. I've got all sorts of data points that I can look at. So I don't get wrapped up in one data point. I've got lots of data points. Like for instance, one of my data points this morning was I had great blood sugar. right? If I had overeaten carbs last night, I'd have bad blood sugar this morning. I'd have like, it'd be up in the upper 90s, maybe over 100, right? Who knows? I've got great ketone numbers this morning, right? Says that I didn't eat a lot of carbohydrates yesterday. Says that I stuck to my plan. So I've got lots of data, and the more data I have, the more likely it is that I'm going to be able to stare at my data, focus in on some numbers, and be able to attach positive meaning to that data. That positive meaning is going to drive my emotions. My emotions are going to drive my behavior. My automatic behavior is going to be driven by that. And then that behavior is going to drive some thoughts, right? Some thoughts are just going to get produced up here. That's what this thing does, by the way. You think you're in control of your thoughts? You're not. You think you are, but you're not. You spend very little time willfully thinking during the day. The rest of this stuff is just this random background conversation, just thoughts being produced. Like your heart pumps blood and your kidneys produce urine and your brain produces thoughts. I just want to put that out there. It's a little bit of mindful meditation for you. If you've done mindful meditation, you know this already. Your brain just produces these thoughts, and you're not in control of all the thoughts that it produces, right? Like it's just random nonsense that's going on up there a lot of times. And what you have to do is observe that stuff and go, that one is important, that one is nonsense. That one is, maybe you should think about that later on. That one's just crazy random stuff that's being produced, right? It's just like shooting off. It's just neurons are just like shooting off in there. And it depends what you eat. It depends if you've exercised, depends if you're tired, depends if you're in love, depends. All sorts of things are shooting off in there, and it's emotion based. So you got to be careful about allowing your brain to think certain things. You've got to be very deliberate about what you think, right? That's why I like math, because math is very deliberate, forces me to use, this side of my brain, right? The right side of my brain. Is it the right side or the left side? I don't know. It's right side, left side, right side. I don't know. So I like data. So data helps to drive my emotions. And what I find is that volume of data is helping me to consolidate my emotions in a consistent fashion, right? So that's good. I'll tell you what, I feel better about dieting if I know when I'm going to reach my goal. I know, doesn't matter with what happens. I know that I'm going to reach my goal here before 60 days, right? I know that I will. I mean, unless I go completely off the rails, which is willful. It's going to be a willful act, right? If I go off the rails, it's a choice at this point. But I know I feel better about weight loss. Last time I did this, and I hate this full disclosure thing. I started off at 235 pounds. I did, right? And I've been fighting this for a long time. And I've never really known when I'm going to reach my goal, right? So I reached my goal of 164 once in the last 10 years from 235 pounds and came back up to, actually it was over this. It was over 194. And I hate to say it, but I probably hit 200. I mean, I know I did because I looked at the data. So, that's a thing we got to conquer long term. Got to conquer consistent weight maintenance, right? And weight control. I've got to conquer that. We haven't conquered that yet. Obviously haven't conquered it. Didn't conquer it last time, right? Because I went down and went back up again. But the journey is more interesting this time. And the reason it's more interesting and there's more motivation is I kind of know when I'm going to lose this weight. I know how long it's going to take me. I mean, the last time, in order to come down from 235 down to 164, which is it's a big number. It's a big number. I mean, that's 70 pounds. It takes a long time to make that happen. It took me a better part of a year to make that happen. And I didn't know when. And I was fighting it. I told you the story about seeing the doctor and saying, what am I going to do to get down below? And he's like, you're going to have to cut calories. And I'm like, I can't do it. Because I was doing sort of this I was innovating, right? I was improvising my diet. I was just like, I just got to reduce calories. And I would reduce calories, but I didn't know which calories to reduce. And I wasn't being consistent about it. And then I would reduce a lot of calories and then I'd have to come back to eating again because I was literally fasting my way to those last few pounds. I couldn't fast. I can't fast. It's not what I want to do. Anyway, I just feel better about knowing when I'm going to lose my weight. I feel more encouraged that I can get past that 164 sort of psychological brain barrier that says I can't get below that number. So this is a very good, I like this approach a lot better. I'll tell you another lesson that I learned is I thought this would be harder. I thought doing it this way would be a lot harder. You know, my brain was sort of lying to me. And it was convincing me that it was going to be, oh, this is going to be really difficult. You need to kind of, stay the current path. You know, you need to keep snoring. You need to keep having apnea. You know, you keep binge eating, all that stuff. But I don't know. This is a lot easier, and I'm kind of glad. I'm kind of glad that I stuck to this because my brain was lying to me. Right, my emotions were attached in a different way. Right, I attached a different meaning to this. I attached the meaning of failure from the past experience. Right. I used to be 164 and then I gained all of this weight and I don't really know how I did it. Can I do it again? I had no plan back there. And so of course I didn't know how I did it. I just starved myself, which was not really a plan. Starving's not a plan. That's not a plan. So it's a concept that I thought this was going to be harder, but it's not. This is actually a much easier way to lose weight than I've experienced in the past. Another lesson learned is I can lose more than 2 pounds in a week. In the past, that's what I was trying to do, about 2 pounds a week. Dieted over like a 40-week period and lost 70 pounds, which is formidable. That's fabulous. Didn't keep it off. I looked at the curve on the data and I went down over 10 months and I hit that point like 164 and then slow climb back up and then back down again and slow climb back up and then climb back up over the years, back up to a little over 200 pounds. And you can see where I am here, 194, right? Sure, I was dieting before this, right? Like I didn't not diet all the way up to the 31st of December. I was starting to diet in November and December. I was starting to control myself. I'd made that decision back in November. But, I came up with this plan, late December, early January as to how I was going to approach this. Because I knew in the back of my mind, fasting, starvation, and none of this stuff is going to work for me. I don't have a plan. So I came up with a plan and we'll see what happens. Here's lesson I've learned. Big one. Big lesson. I'm vulnerable to binge eating. Are you? Do you binge eat? I binge eat. My name is Binge Eater, and I binge eat. Right? Not everybody is a binge eater. My wife's not a binge eater. I am. And I'm a stress eater. I notice that I eat a lot when I'm stressed. Having a kid, that's stressful. 2 kids, that's stressful. 2 kids under 2 years old, that's stressful. All of you out there with 2 under 2, that's stressful. And we had that. It was hard. That was difficult. It was really difficult with my wife. I honor her, and it's amazing what women have to go through. But any couple, male, female, any type of couple that's got 2 kids under 2, I hear you. There's a lot of screaming there. There's a lot of diapers. It's stressful. And you're up late at night, you're up at 2 o'clock in the morning, you're eating, right? You get up, you're like, I'm up for another 2 hours. And I'm like already overweight. I'm not sleeping and we're taking care of kids. It's difficult. And then there's other life events that cause problems, right? I mean, this last year, I gained a lot of weight this past year, a lot of stress this past year, right? A lot of uncertainty. So I'm a binge eater. And I noticed that. I think back now at how many nuts I ate, how many little chocolate treats I ate over the last 10, 12 months or 10 months or so. A lot of stress there. A lot of stress. So I'm a stress eater. And what is stress eating and what's binge eating? Well, it's emotionally driven behavior, right? All right. It's not willful. I'm not going and saying, hey, you know what? I think I should have a half cup of almonds right now. Maybe in half an hour, I'm going to go get myself a half cup of almonds, and I'm going to down that 600 calories in spite of the fact that I've already had 3,000 calories today. So I'm just going to do, it's not willful. I'm not doing that stuff. I'm walking by the pantry and I'm like, I'm hungry and I've got to eat. So it's a behavior, right? And your behavior is not necessarily willful, right? I'm not willingly binging. I'm on autopilot, and probably so are folks that feel that pain right now. I mean, if you're watching this and you know that you're binge eating, you know that you're stress eating, please understand it's not willful. That's not self-control. That's a behavior. That's emotional behavior. I'll talk about that in a minute. You can get around this. You can fix this. But the first thing is awareness. You need to understand you are not willful. You're not making the decision to do that. Don't beat yourself up. This is your lizard brain doing this stuff to you, right? So I'll talk about this, how it works. So since it's a behavior, right, it's grounded in an emotion. Remember, I told you what you focus on, you attach a meaning to, whether you like it or not, right? This is a little bit subconscious. And whatever meaning you attach to it is positive or negative, and that's going to drive your emotions, and your emotions are going to drive your behavior. You're eventually going to drive some thoughts because you're going to get some results from your behavior. Those are willful thoughts, and then you're going to take willful action and then come back to the beginning, right? It's a cycle. And I can get into this a little bit later on in another video, but that's a big one. And you got to be aware of it. You got to really be aware of it. And there's a reason why I know all this stuff, because I've read about 30 books on psychology for another thing that I do. And so I've learned that this is kind of the pattern that I think, it's the pattern model that I think applies. It certainly applies to me. So, what's going on there, right? I've got a behavior, binge eating, that's grounded in some type of an emotion, right? And those emotions are attached in a meaning that I've given to something that I'm focusing on, right? So I got a stressful event. Man, this is stressful, right? So, boy, there's a lot of threat here. There might be some anxiety. There might be even panic. I have 2 kids, right? A little bit of panic. So, I'm attaching all these meanings, and maybe some of my meanings are scarcity, right? I'm in a state of scarcity. I don't have enough resources. How am I going to pay for these kids? How am I going to pay for these kids college? How am I going to send these kids to school? All that kind of stuff. So there's meanings like loss and scarcity or threat, right? Any stressful situation has those kinds of meanings. So then your lizard brain, the operating system inside your lizard brain over here, basically goes into survival mode. And it says, start eating, buddy. For me, that's what it says. For some of you, it says retreat, right? Right? Get out of that situation. That happens. For some of you, it says fight, right? For some of you, it says good things. It says, hey, you got a baby, right? Some of you many of you attach great meanings to your situation. You're good. You've already got this down. Not me, though. Somehow I'm attaching negative meanings to some events. I'm not saying that I'm attaching negative meaning to my kids. There was another the most stressful thing that's ever happened to me in my life happened at the same time. And it happened to me and my wife. It's another event that has nothing to do with having the kids. It happened at the same time as having the kids, right? So there was this big thing and it went on for years. And it was rough. It was difficult. And then in the middle of this, my father died. I had to go take care of him before he died. Had to leave and go to another country and spend time there. A lot of stress, right? A lot of eating. I was eating chocolate, watching my father sort of wither away. It was stressful times. So anyway, my body, when it's stressful, you know what my body says? My brain says, start eating. Like I'm some type of nomad living in the plains of Northern Europe in the 6th century. Right? Like, you just got to eat, right? Because there's scarcity. So I've got this meaning of scarcity that I've attached that. And so my body says, start eating, buddy, you're going to starve. I don't know, really? There's a connection there, but I guess that's what's going on. So anyway, the lesson learned here, right here, is that I have to make a conscious decision what I'm going to focus on, right? Remember, what you focus on, you attach a meaning. What you attach a meaning to is either positive or negative and gives you an emotional framework to work from, and then that drives your behaviors. Well, the loop, when you come back, you have to consciously decide what you're going to focus on. Now, I know it's hard to not focus on a parent that's very ill. I know it's hard, but you've got to focus on a positive aspect of it. What does this mean? And that's hard to do. That's not easy to do. That's hard to do. But some of you can do it. Some of you can do it. And, Viktor Frankl wrote a book about being in concentration camp and Man's Search for Meaning. I strongly recommend that book. That is foundational to how I approach things. Man's Search for Meaning, Viktor Frankl. Please read that book. That's very, very good book. You need to consciously decide what you're going to focus on and what meanings you're going to give it, right? That stuff is on autopilot for most of us, but you've got to make decisions. So I know that I need to consciously focus on lots of data, right? Not just one data point, not just my waist size, but lots of data. And I have to attach a positive meaning to all these things. And if I attach positive meanings, am I thinking about scarcity? Am I thinking about stress? Am I thinking about a threat to me? Am I thinking about loss? No, I'm thinking, wow, what's the lesson in here? I'm gaining, I'm learning something, right? I'm going to be a better person as a result of this, right? Sure, it's stressful, but you know, what happens, right? Stress, right? Stress, fire, you know, hardens the steel, right? Right? The more fire, the more heat you put into steel, the harder it becomes. So all of these life's lessons make you tougher, make you stronger to a point. I mean, I know the end of life, nothing you can do about that. I mean, I've seen it. But, you know, after reflecting on all of those events that happened to us outside of having our kids, which is wonderful, I became stronger. I can face things now that are, I mean, they would have been unthinkable 4 years ago, 3-4 years ago, when all these other events started. So 2 major events, now have a lot of wisdom and perspective about them. I can give people advice about dealing with a sick parent, things that you can or can't do. I can give you advice about another big thing that I don't want to get into, but very challenging. So now I know that I need to very much concentrate. I'm vulnerable to this behavior. I am vulnerable to attaching negative meaning to things, which leads to binge eating. So that's my problem. Maybe you could think about that. If you think you binge eat, start thinking about this process. What are you focusing on? What meaning are you attaching to it? Are you thinking, are you in a world of loss? You feel like maybe there's a relationship that's not working for you, and your lizard brain just goes scarcity, eat. That's the formula, right? We've been around for a long time. This brain is how old is the brain structure? I mean, what is it? 5, maybe 600,000 years since we've had an upgrade of our brain, right? I mean, who knows what this is, right? So psychologists and scientists are trying to figure this stuff out all the time. Anyway, enough about that. I know something that I can do, right? I can use this metrics-driven approach with these progress tables. I can use that on other goals that I have in my life. Duh. I mean, I used to do this. And I stopped doing it, I think because of the events the last 4 or 5 years. I kind of threw everything on the ground and I said, oh my God, I got to go deal with these things that life has thrown my way, along with kids. And I've kind of lost track of how I used to do things. I used to do things like this. So, it's nice to come back to this. But from now on, whenever I've got a big project that I feel like, oh, I can't even start on this stuff. You know what? First thing I'm going to do is to say, what are the metrics? What are the metrics? Where are we at? Where are we at? What are the metrics? Let's give it a shot for 2 days and see what happens. See if we can improve on these metrics and then make that the little game, right? So that's really good. I know that some of my foods affect my blood glucose levels and my ketone levels, right? I know that it affects my water, my weight retention more than other, right? So maybe this is just water retention, who knows, right? And it's probably different for everybody, right? What affects you may not, be the same things that affect me, but I know that there's an effect there. It's good to learn which ones affect you. I know that rice is gonna kill me. Rice, pasta, bread, all that stuff. I know it's gonna kill me. There's other people. My mother has to eat bread in order to maintain her weight. She has to eat rice and pasta to maintain her weight at this point. So, I mean, these things are different for everybody. So you got to figure it out for yourself. Me, rice, pasta, bread, potatoes, right? White starches. Really, that's just a mountain of sugar for me. That's just a mountain of little sugar for me. I've got to be very careful about that stuff. I know something about willpower because I've read a lot of books about it, and about habits. I've read some books about habits. I've done a lot of reading in the last 2 years. I've read maybe 150 books on topics like this. Willpower, Viktor Frankl's book, a lot of psychology books, about 25 psychology books on specifically around performance improvement. Just FYI, Anders Ericsson, who's a professor at the University of South Florida, I think, right? I think it's South Florida University. Uh, Anders Ericsson, brilliant guy, really brilliant guy. If you can read any of his stuff, and he's got some expensive books on Amazon, but he's got a couple of more reasonably priced books on Amazon. Read his books about performance improvement. It's all about this. It's all about this. It's exactly about this. Performance in anything. You want to learn the violin, you want to learn how to play the piano, you want to learn how to run marathons, you want to learn how to remember a sequence of 500 numbers in a row. Anders Ericsson, he's got the answer. He knows how to get this done. And I learned a lot from him in how I'm doing stuff. So that was foundational. But what I did learn is that willpower alone is not sufficient, nor is it reliable to get anything done. It's not one of those resources where you go, oh, I can get this done. I got willpower, right? Maybe not. Your willpower runs out. And your willpower is available to you in an unknown quantity for an unknown period of time. That's the way it works. I thought my willpower alone can get this done. It's not true. You need to constantly positively reinforce yourself with positive emotions in order to generate more willpower for longer periods of time. So, right, you have to add more tools. Can't just do it on willpower alone, right? Dieting, you can't just do it on willpower alone. I remember the first time I did this and I hit 164 and I couldn't get beyond the 164, that psychological barrier. I couldn't get below it, right? What kind of willpower? I ran out of willpower. I ran out of the willpower. I just couldn't starve myself anymore. And what I needed was a plan. If I'd had a plan, I'd have been able to do that, I think. I think we'll find out. I think I'm going to go beyond 164 this time, feel more confident about it, right? Right? You're going to need some willpower to do this. But the way you do that, the way you maintain a reserve of willpower is by adding tools and habits and a plan, right? That continuously build positive feedback for you. And that positive feedback gives you positive emotions and it increases your reserves of willpower, right? And this way, you're going to have, when you're getting through your day, when you're getting through your week, when you're getting through to the next meal, you're going to have the willpower. You're going to have the reserves to do it. I've noticed that I've had the willpower now for 19 days. I've had ample willpower to get through. I've not cheated. Not once. It's the first time in my life. Been on a diet, no cheating. I track that rigorously every day. Sometimes you got to get through the next minute. Does that happen to you? Have you felt that where you're like it's minute by minute now, and I'm relying on willpower alone? I mean, that's where willpower really comes in, right? Is at that minute, if you've ever quit something, if you've ever quit a bad habit, if you've ever quit smoking, right, or quit a substance, you know it in your heart that willpower is everything, and it's for the next 60 seconds. The next 60 seconds. And if you're a binge eater and you're walking by your pantry and you see that bag of potato chips or you see those nuts or you see that chocolate, sometimes that willpower, you've got to draw on it, and it has to be absolute. It has to be a huge amount of willpower. It has to be available to get you through the other side, right? Can you rely on your willpower? Because your willpower breaks down. You know it. So what I do is I reinforce it. I bring in other tools. I don't let willpower be the only tool in my tool bag. Lot of good books out there about willpower and about habits, forming habits. It's pretty amazing stuff. I'll probably provide a list of books that I've read to give you some background on that stuff. So finally, the final lesson learned here is this. And I reflected this morning about this lesson because this is what this result caused me to start focusing on the right stuff, right? What's the lesson learned, right? It's the negative result. Let's not get all down about it. What's going on here? So my professor at the University of Chicago, who taught a business course, James Schrager, I attended several universities, but this one, this one was memorable, and this course was memorable. He discussed the five iron laws of strategy. It applies to everything. It was a business course, but the five iron laws apply to everything. And his five iron laws, Schrager, I think those are his. I'm not, to be honest, I'm not really sure. But the five iron laws are as follows. Number one, history drives your strategy. Whatever you did in the past is going to drive your strategy. I mean, it's where you're starting from. That's going to drive your strategy going forward, right? It's 194 pounds. This drives my strategy. If I was 300 pounds, maybe I'd be doing lap surgery, right? I'd be using a different strategy. So your history drives your strategy. Innovation creates uncertainty. Innovating, making stuff up, improvising, it creates an uncertain result, right? Had a, Lagostina lobster casserole yesterday, first time, right? That kind of innovation creates uncertainty. Focus drives your power. What you focus on drives power, right? It drives energy, right? Right? It's coming in, right? Those are the five iron laws. This is old stuff. This is 30 years old. Diversification introduces risk in everything that you do. What did I do yesterday? I came in and I didn't have chicken and broccoli. I had Lagostina casserole for the first time, maybe with the wrong input data, right? That kind of diversification in my diet. Now, and I've gotten rid of rice and I'm eating kimchi and I'm not just having carbs at lunch. I'm now having carbs at night. Maybe this is driving risk in my model, right? This diversification, right? And the fifth iron law is that all growth will end unless you change. All progress will end unless you adjust. That's what it means right here, right? Five iron laws, really, really important, right? So in executing this plan, executing this strategy, right? Because a strategy is a vision with a plan. That's all it is. Like I can give you better definitions of strategy from a business perspective, because that's what I do. I'm a strategist. But what I can tell you is that any strategy is a vision with a plan, right? 164 pounds, that's the vision. What's the plan? That's a strategy. That's that simple, right? A lot of people get strategy and tactics mixed up. It's a vision with a plan. The tactics are, which food do I eat? That's at the tactical level, right? So maybe I'm messing things up at the tactical level, but regardless, in executing this plan, for sure, number two, which is innovation, I innovated, and number four, which is diversification, both of them bring risk and uncertainty to this plan, to executing this plan. So got to bear that in mind, right? I had a model, chicken and broccoli, right? Chicken and broccoli, that'll work, right? Chicken breasts, chicken thighs, some fish. I know that stuff works, right? And broccoli, right? And not carrots, broccoli, right? Spinach maybe, right? Cauliflower will work. But I know what works, right? And if I'm innovating, I'm improvising along the way, it's going to cause some problems. So I'm experimenting, right? I'm playing with the formulas in my spreadsheet. I'm innovating, right? And I'm diversifying. Right? I'm using different ingredients in my foods and I'm eating them at different times. I'm experimenting, right? Remember, this is an experiment for everybody's benefit. Mine, in terms of weight loss, maybe yours, maybe in terms of losing or of gaining some knowledge, right? And learn from my experience. Don't make my mistakes. Learn from my experience. But what I do know is that experimenting and diversification while you're executing a plan, and I know this in business. I know it in business because I've done this. I've got 35 years of doing this in business. I know that that's risky, right? You do a certain thing in business, and then somebody comes up with a great idea. Hey, why don't we write software for part of our business? Well, how much is it going to cost? When is it going to be ready? Is it going to work? All answers, I don't know. I don't know the answer to any one of those things when you're innovating and you're diversifying. So that's very risky stuff. And here we are on a very simple thing like weight loss, and I'm diversifying and innovating because that's my nature, right? I like to tinker with stuff. What I do know is that chicken and broccoli work. Weightlifters are going to tell you that. Anybody that's a competitive body sculptor. We've got a friend. She did this after her baby. She just lost a ton of weight. You know what she ate? She ate chicken and broccoli. She never got off that diet. She ate chicken and broccoli, and she looked great. She was competing. She in a swimsuit thingy, whatever. She looked great. So I know that chicken and broccoli work. And why am I experimenting? Well, I just wanted to experiment. I want to see what I can, I want to see where I can go with this, see what's livable with me. But I'm experimenting. I don't think my spreadsheet formulas are wrong. I've double checked those things. I think they're pretty good. But it's clear that the calorie count label, that FDA label on the back of some food packaging, that could be inaccurate. I mean, is it 50 calories for 85 grams? Is it 90? Is it 80, 84 calories for 85 grams? I don't know. I'm going to start having to think a new procedure. I'm going to write down a new rule that when I look at packaging, I better look at that 2 or 3 hours in advance, because I looked at all that stuff literally 20, maybe 10 minutes before I ate my meal. Maybe too fast, maybe too hopeful. I remember looking at the numbers going, that doesn't make sense. I can eat 400 grams of this? It doesn't make sense. But I trusted the math, and I was following my process. But still, probably need a little bit more time, right? A little too anxious to get to the meal and get it done. So it's possible that calorie count labels are wrong on the back of packages. So be careful about that. And obviously, the lesson learned is do a little bit more research on a brand new food, on a brand new dish, brand new casserole. Do some more research. Spend a couple days maybe double checking the numbers, the input numbers, to make sure that it's gonna match. So those are the lessons learned so far. And I think that those are powerful lessons. And I think that they are lessons that you can use in other aspects of your life, for professional, personal, relationships, spiritual life, whatever. Those are all lessons that you can use. I know I'm going to use these lessons. We're going to see what tomorrow brings. Today, I'm going to be rigorous. Chicken and broccoli all day. Maybe chicken and broccoli all day tomorrow. We'll see what happens. We'll see if tomorrow I come back with a better number. I'm hoping. But if not, if this is the new starting spot, then so be it. So be it. We've got 41 days to knock out 14 pounds. I think we can do it. I believe we can do it, even with this little setback. Even if I had another 2-pound setback, I still think I can do it. But I don't want to act like the tortoise and the hare. I don't want to be the hare. I'm going to be methodical, and we're going to get through this process. And I don't want to cheat. And I know that every day I'm able to put a 0 here, or an O that says I did not cheat on this day, and I did not cheat. I may not have gotten my numbers right, and I think that's an error. You may think I'm cheating, but I don't think I am. I think it's an honest error. If it is an error at all, we don't know. We're going to find out. So good luck in your dieting plans today. If you like what I'm doing, please give it a like, give it a thumbs up, hit that like button. And also, if you can, subscribe to my channel. And I'd like to see where this goes. Hopefully the information is valuable. I can share a lot more about some of the things that I've learned and incorporate those lessons into this process. And hopefully this stuff is useful for you. So have a great day. If you're dieting, stick with your plan. Weigh your food. Weigh your food. It seems to be the number one thing that you could do, is just weigh those ingredients and calculate your calories and be deliberate about what you can eat. All right? Good luck to you. Have a great day.